YouTube is still going live, so give us just a minute. All right.
I totally dreamt I was doing a live last night.
Hey, how'd it go?
It wasn't good. I started answering questions before giving my usual spiel, and then, like, in my sleep, was like, oh no, I didn't tell people.
They're not going to know what we're here.
Any idea why I'm here talking? We good?
You are good.
All right.
We are good.
All right. Welcome everyone to the 034 Live. This is 130, episode 130. And we are here to answer all your questions about 034 Motorsport products and services. Certainly anything automotive related. Any controversial debates you'd like us to settle for you, we'd be happy to. But you can ask us about anything. We like to talk about anything that you'd like to know. And take a no BS approach to responding to questions. We like to cut to the chase, to the heart of the matter. And as always, if you love us, let us know. If you hate us, please also let us know so we can figure out what we're...
Okay, and no, I don't think we'll do a 034 shirtless episode.
Oh, shirtless? I think there's too many men watching. Maybe if it was all ladies, it would probably be more worthwhile.
Definitely wouldn't be nothing.
But not that some men won't like us with our shirt off. It's all good. What's one other thing? Oh yes, put your questions into the browser of your current purview, whatever you're looking at. Just put the questions in right there. And we're not doing too many update questions anymore. So if you ask a question about when's something going to be available, this or that, don't be surprised if we don't respond. But we will respond in some cases. There's been too much of it in the past. Let's see. So these are the new questions down here?
Correct. The MK8 GTI tuners question.
Okay, got it. Someone says, I love that this is just genuine car dudes with candid dialogue. Absolutely. We don't prepare or practice for this at all. Sometimes we might talk for 3 seconds about something we want to talk about, like a new tune or product release or something like that. For the most part, yeah, completely unfiltered.
Off the cuff.
I'll probably get sued at some point for something I said.
And
it's that good.
Please try and remember, too, that we are talking off the cuff. So if a number's a little off here or there, or there's some minuscule factoid that we don't get right, just let us know.
It rarely is, though.
We try
a really good track
record. Keep things straight.
I'm trying to toot my own horn, but I don't think we've really been much off on anything.
Yep.
All right. Controversial topic of the week. At 034 or for you?
Yeah, what's the genre here?
Yeah. You let us know, but...
we try and stay away from controversy here.
I mean, we tackle it head on when it comes, but then in general, we don't try to create thin air. 770 horsepower on the 810 horsepower turbo. What's in the works to unlock the full potential of the TTE 810?
I mean, 810 is just a number. It's a rough estimate of, or a calculated estimate of what the turbo can flow. 770 is the calculated estimate of what we made at the crank.
It's the on paper, how much air should be able to flow through this turbo.
Yeah. What it looks like is probably the mechanical limit right now. It's just a factor of back pressure and the valve's ability to shut with that back pressure. So you get into where all the any more and you start getting into valve float if you're trying to ask for more power up top. So that's probably the unlock, but that unlock is, I don't know if it's feasible on this turbine housing.
We've touched on this, that the A10 is in factory housings.
Yeah.
Right. So we've now gone from a turbo that was being used optimally at about 350 horsepower from the factory. We've taken those same housings. We're now producing 770 horsepower through the same housings. So, I don't know. This is like if you worked out for 5 years and you could bench 300 pounds, and then we asked you to bench 600 within a year. There's just only so much your body can do with the frame you have or whatever. So the factory housings, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, to understand that the factory housings are being stretched way past, anything that they were designed to do. So TTE, I believe, rates the compressor wheel flow. So the compressor wheel mounted in kind of an optimal compressor housing should flow about 810. So the turbo probably should have been called this TTE 770 because
777.
that's 77. That's a good name actually. 777. But this also doesn't, the turbo name, which is pretty much hyperbole. Don't take it too seriously. But it doesn't take into account the strength of the rods, valve flow limits, fuel system limitations. The turbo actually being installed in the rotor. So again, this is, like Nate said, on paper, the compressor wheel should flow 810 horsepower. That's about it. And then there's everything else that actually, influences how much power.
And again, this is all what dyno, what unit of crank correction are you using? What, there's just a myriad of other things too that go into these horsepower numbers.
Mm-hmm.
All of it is calculated and or some sort of mathematically derived horsepower number on their part as to what the turbo will flow. I mean, they're making these turbos and based on some modeling and some previous knowledge, they can best guess what it'll flow. But I mean, in most of these cases, they don't have a vehicle that's tapping out that turbo yet. They're kind of building a product to create a market and a tune. The tunes don't necessarily exist yet before they release the turbo.
Yeah. So basically, here's the deal. I mean, this isn't a secret for any of our competition, but really, to make more power on the 3-liter turbo, it's going to require moving past hybrids the way that we've seen, which is XYZ cartridge mounted in factory housings. We're at the limit of what the factory housings can do. And then there are also some other practical limits in the motor and fuel system that will have to be addressed in the future as well. But good news, there's more coming, and it's not like 777 horsepower. It's really something to cry into your Cheerios about.
Right, and that's the thing is, like, I don't know what internet numbers some people might be chasing, but you should probably experience the full the full thing first, and then see if you need more.
Yeah, just because you read about some Hellcat that has 1,000 horsepower or whatever, or some GTR, to experience the incredible power of even the 710, the 810, even our Stage 2 on E85. It's ridiculous and it's fun. We had a customer in service recently who got an 810, and he's basically like scared of the car.
It's a lot of power.
Yeah.
These cars do remarkably well at controlling it. It's a really nice all-wheel drive system. It's very anti drama. It's just really fast.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing will break all four loose first, second, third gear.
Yep. All right, let's move. We got a lot of questions coming up.
Ew.
Always on the laptop. Is he on the hub? Okay, I would just like to state unequivocally, Nate would never be on Pornhub. He uses RedTube.
We all have our corners.
Is the new TTE A10 tune considered Stage 3 Plus? What would your Stage 3 Plus tune be? Do we have it? I don't think we're calling it.
This is just market. In whatever
Hyperbole.
Look
up the word hyperbole.
Whatever the market wants to call a general stage or configuration is what ends up.
I mean, technically speaking, it's our Stage 3 tune that uses our high pressure fuel pump. You could say it's a 3 Plus. We don't call it that. It's called our Stage 3 TTE A10. We also have a Stage 3 TTE 710.
Yeah, there's no aftermarket
Standard
encyclopedia that defines what a given stage equates to.
Now the International Association of Turbo Nomenclature in Geneva has not weighed in, unfortunately, on the outcome
for modified. Nope, stage 2 is
Stage
completely
2's all
different.
over the place. You kidding?
B8 S4, what's stage 2? It's a pulley.
EPL.
Come on, bro.
The EPL.
And then Uni's got a 1 Plus. That's just an octane change. You get
What's one thing you want to do better or different this year? Good question.
Better or different?
I have a lot of personal things I could talk about, but I probably won't get into all that. But let's say at 034 Motorsport, a business, what would we like to do better?
Better? I mean, I want to get more product out, more calibrations out, more of these custom features out that we're working on. but that's just function of time and
Mm-hmm.
time and resources. I think we're doing a really good job of what we got.
Yeah, one of the huge challenges of being in the position we're in, and many of you are probably in this position at your job. If you work for like a government agency or something, but whatever we did last year, we have to do it all over again and better. So that's one way of looking at doing something better or different is we have to repeat all the great things we did last year, but we have to do all of that. But the great, amazing things that we did last year are now the baseline for, judging our performance for 2023. And so the challenge is to have another incredible performance and build on that even more. So this is kind of like, if you're a band and you release a really great album that sells a ton and it's critically acclaimed, your next album has to be better than that. You can't just do the same exact thing as the last time. If you do, it won't be considered successful. So, for us, it's just more great stuff, more tunes, more calibration, more innovative products, better customer service, expanding our logistics, continuing to deal with and overcome supply challenges, which are still difficult. We continue to do business with a lot of inflationary pressure, although we saw the worst of it, I'd say, Q1 through 3 last year. We've seen things level off, but, I went to get a haircut on Saturday, and Panda Express next door is paying $19 an hour for starting. To literally take like crappy Chinese food and put it in a cardboard box and hand it to me. So, labor costs are, it's going to be a challenging year. And I think for us going into 2023, there's a lot of uncertainty. It's going on with the economy. And, is there a recession looming? Nobody really knows exactly which way things are going to go. Inflation seems to have leveled off, but will that all of a sudden spike again? Will something happen to cause gasoline and oil prices to skyrocket again? There's just a lot of uncertainty in China. China affects everybody. No one wants to admit it, but everyone relies on China for the supply and manufacturing of products. And right now, supposedly, COVID's ravaging the country. So it will be an interesting year, I think, for us doing what we did last year and building on huge success. What are the basis for calculating 18 and 19% in drivetrain loss from what you are seeing at the wheels on the dyno?
I mean, normally what we will try and do is get a baseline done with the stock vehicle, stock configuration, do a bunch of pulls, and see where things line up. And it's not a static number. It's going to have a little less loss down low. It's going to increase as, wheel speed and RPMs increase. You're going to have more heat, basically, or more of that engine energy is going to be converted into heat in the gearbox and the drivetrain. So it's not just a single number. It generally ramps up towards red line. So it's just a number we try and derive as best we can based on the stock published power figures, and they're usually consistent. We found from
it's an estimate. We also know how much fuel the engine's using. Approximately how much air is going into it.
But this is why we never used to publish crank numbers for the longest time, because it's always a calculated kind of made up number based on,
to be honest,
some factors. But
we talk about this a lot though, but to be honest, wheel horsepower numbers are also calculated and made up. You're driving your car on a machine. There's a sensor that calculates a certain amount of load, which is correlated to the certain torque production. And every dyno reads a little differently, right? There's no standard configuration or calibration to set a dyno up to.
Yeah, and the little details matter a lot. Sometimes you'll have load cells on the dyno. Sometimes there's just inertia only. It comes down to the consistency of the dyno, how well it's cared for. Literally, like how greased the roller bearings are will make a measurable
the air in the tires,
how much,
of the vehicle.
What tires on the car, how much air is in the tires, like all of that adds up to a not insubstantial amount on a dyno sheet.
And not to say that what the dyno measures isn't accurate and repeatable, it just doesn't necessarily apply to any other car in any other situation. So that, as far as the translatability, my point isn't to say that lose faith in everything. This isn't a black or white decision. Take it all with a reasonable sensibility that these are estimates, that these are representative of something that's happening. When you flash your car with our tune, you can create general comparisons to other companies' products and offerings. But if our tune makes 6 more horsepower than Joe Schmuckatelli's tune, it doesn't mean our tune is 6 horsepower more. Going to be 6 horsepower more powerful on your car.
It might be.
It might be 50,
it might be
50
it might
horsepower
be,
more powerful. It might be minus 10 on your car. We just can't say. So this is why we go drag racing. Drag racing is kind of the rubber meets the road. Still, just because we run a 9.9 doesn't mean you'll be able to.
It's
That's the bottom line. Flash your car with our tune, and your face will be smashed into the seat a certain amount based on what stage you get. That's probably the most accurate way.
I know, and it's a struggle we have, and everybody has. It's just like how can we convince you of what you're going to end up with at the end of the day? And once the product is on your vehicle, like we want you to have the expected result, and we try and convey that through the dynos by showing the deltas and how much it started with and where we ended up.
I'd say as accurate as anything you could look at is what's your impression of who we are, what we do as a company, who we are as individuals, what is our skill set and expertise. We're applying everything that we know, everything that we do to create the best tunes and calibrations for you guys. And I mean, that's literally as discreet as you can get with this stuff. Is how you feel about how reliable we are is about as much faith as you can put into a dyno chart as well.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you're going to need support from us. You're going to be counting on us to continue to support tune on the platform, to update features and functionality, to make improvements, to continue to build and improve on what we've done before. And you're buying into that, and we are entering into a relationship of sorts where we are counting and relying on each other. We are supporting you with your dreams and aspirations and what you want to accomplish with your car. And you are relying on us to give it to you in a reliable way and to give you something that's fair and reasonable for the amount of money you spend with us. And then also check out all the dyno numbers and stuff too.
Yeah, it's all just part of the equipment, part of your decision matrix.
Someone says, I need parts from you guys ASAP. Where can I go get them? You should go to 034motorsport.com, or you can check out any of our dealers.
Yeah, we have
hundreds of dealers.
We have a dealer locator at the bottom of the site. You can give a call to anybody local or as local to you as you can. We got lots of stocking dealers.
Good morning, afternoon. So I've recently updated to stage 2 ECU, stage 1 TCU, but now my cold start is quiet. Is this normal?
Yes.
I'm going to be on these.
Yeah, that's normal in most anything that's these are race files for test pipes or race catalysts. So it's that cold start noise is basically the secondary air injection warming up the catalyst to a certain temperature. Since
you no longer have a catalyst, there's no need to have a cold start warm-up routine. So it would just be wasteful and unnecessary. So we do remove it on stage 2. If you still have a calic converter installed on a stage 1 file, for example, then yes, we would continue to have a warm-up cycle for the calic converter. 1 week away from dropping my B9 off for stage 3. Am I ready? Is my wife? What about my neighbors? Nobody is ready.
Yeah.
So you're just going to do it anyways, and you'll figure it out afterwards. And try to do something for your wife that's equally satisfying. Because I found in marriage type relationships, it's all about equitability. Will 2-step be available for B9, assuming S4? We are close to launching our
second question. Is
will we shoot flames with B9 ALC? Yes, we are very close to releasing our advanced launch control for the B9 3.0T platform.
That said,
We teased a video of it last week. Check it out if you haven't.
yeah, that said, it's not. It's a different strategy than the B8 stuff, just because these are turbocharged applications. So you do need to build boost if you actually want to leave the line in with any kind of acceleration. So yeah, it's not going to be a hard like two-step cut. It's going to be a torque control limiter. There will be some cuts in there just as it holds an RPM or a torque level.
But it won't necessarily be the two-step like you see.
It's not going to be like the B8.
The supercharged B8. Can you bring back VR6 turbo kits? Now, if there was a market for it, we'd love to. They were great as far as very powerful cars. We sold hardly any VR6 turbo kits. We probably sold our R32/24 valve whatever turbo kit for probably 3-4 years. We sold maybe 20 of them.
Yeah,
And when you think about the time, effort, energy, just pulling and packing one of those kits and then supporting it afterwards, it was a money-losing proposition. It's the kind of thing like the more VR6 turbo kits we did, the faster we would go out of business.
pretty much.
So, unfortunately, we discontinued them, and we won't be bringing them back unless there's some new, VR6 application in the future that I seriously doubt will come because of electrification. I think the VR6 is dead when it comes to new.
It wasn't exactly the most efficient.
No, it was from a mileage standpoint.
I'm saying
it's the worst.
New motors are trying to
I would say
hit these efficiency thresholds.
It's the worst Volkswagen outing. I mean, I had
The FSI version wasn't nearly as bad, but
dude, I had a Q7 with the 3.2.
you had a Touareg.
Yeah, sorry, Touareg with the 3.2, and I would start it, and I lived at the top of the hill, and I would just roll down the hill, and after a quarter mile, I was getting 9 miles a gallon. The thing on a long-term base, it's got 8 to 10.
Yeah,
the freeway maybe at 12. It was legitimately half of what it should have been.
Yeah, my VR6 A3, a stock, it was 18 miles to a gallon on the highway. And it's a little A3. Those are not pinnacles of efficiency.
Yeah, no. So I don't think that motor will ever come back.
Have you seen the China market 2.5 VR6 that comes turbocharged?
No. And it's a VR6?
VR6 2.5.
Mm. Yeah, well, they can do whatever they want in China. Rolling anti-lag for B9, B9.5.
Yeah, that'll be
that's also part
of that.
Don't count on it doing much for you. It's kind of a cool thing.
And this is we've gone back and forth with
it's
the calibration guys. It's we've never been able we've yet to be able to have a rolling anti-lag that's any better than breakthrough.
And not just on factories, standalones and everything. I don't know where the fascination with rolling anti-lag comes from. Has anyone actually done back-to-backs of rolling anti-lag versus just
and actually been miserably faster? I don't know.
Yeah, but it will have it. The functionality is all the same. Currently in an argument with a buddy, B9 RS5 with catless downpipes. Can you code out a check engine light with a piggyback while being on your tune?
What? No.
Well, that's not something we support. We could do it if we wanted to. We never would. If you have an RS5 and you want to go stage 2, there's nothing to gain. We've already covered this. It's why we don't offer a stage 2 RS5 tune. The factory cats has 2 big ones. Flow as much as the engine can ever want, even at stage 2 power level. So the factory cats max out the factory turbos. There's no need for a stage 2 file.
Yeah, and a piggyback can't code anything out. It can I don't know what you're intercepting. It might be able to manipulate some signals enough.
I think they're asking if we could provide them an ECU flash. No. But at that point, why would you have a piggyback? You should get the piggyback off your car too. They're basically garbage. There's real tunes on the market. Could you run the 710 810 stage 3 E85 file without the 4-bar map sensor? No.
It is in our required hardware. Need it there. We don't make it up.
No.
It's got to be there.
Yeah, no, we changed the sensor as part of the calibration. And so if you had stock sensors in there, whatever they are, 2.5 bar.
Those are 3 bar.
Or sorry, 3 bar, not 4 bar.
Yeah.
the factory ECU would simply think you have the right.
It won't even start. You're going to get a correlation error when you key on because the ECU does some sanity checks based on the barometric sensor.
Yeah.
As soon as you key on, and it's going to see that now what was supposed to be a 4-bar sensor is reading, like a 3-bar would, which is going to be not going to line up with atmospheric pressure.
You guys ever measured power before and after carbon cleaning the intake valves on any of your cars?
Yep.
Yes. So we have a service department, ZTF Automotive, and when in the past we used to allow customers to run on a dyno. We would sell a service, and so we would do carbon cleaning. We would do before and after. And I remember on some B7 RS4s, it was like 30-40 wheel. It was insane.
Yes, yeah, the V8 RS4 and R8s would be
and
about 30-40 wheel, and that's a large percentage of that motor's power up.
And of course, it could have almost been more because some of these ports were almost completely blocked off. And there was like a 1/2-inch hole through the middle. So
Our techs used to build like little carbon snowmen.
yeah, we still do carbon cleanings. B7 RS4s, R8s need them.
Yeah,
Especially
2 liters get gummed up pretty
the
quickly.
2 liters do too. So yeah, definitely, it's a huge performance hindrance. Absolutely. Will you start to sell the new RacingLine catch can PVC replacement kit for the B9 3.0 T? Yes, it's on a list of products, RacingLine products to add. We have to get them in stock here. We are also releasing our own kit soon as well. But our goal is to sell all the RacingLine products that they sell. Convince me to buy your SuperDüper turbo inlet for my stock turbo B9 S4. I currently have the CTS one installed. Well, if you install our SuperDüper inlet with the factory adapter, the flow will be quite high. I think if you're, I don't know how much more power you'll actually make at the wheels, or at the crank. If you're thinking about upgrading your turbo at some point, then it's a good idea. The inlet itself is a much higher flowing unit, but ultimately the flow is kind of dictated by that opening diameter at the end. So yeah, if you think you're gonna upgrade, you want something better, go for it. I don't think the CTS, we've never tested it, but to get a flow gain over the stock one is actually pretty difficult. It's possible the CTS one
doesn't even stock turbo.
Yes, doesn't even flow as much as stock. I don't know how much engineering CTS puts in their products like that, but yeah, I'm sure they basically replicated the stock plastic one in aluminum. I mean, they came to market. They were to market a long time ago with that. We spent a lot of time flow testing ours, and basically our factory replacement, turbo inlet is marginally better flowing than stock. So it's not easy to get more flow out of that. My point is most of our designs lost flow from the stock. So I don't know, maybe we should get a CTS one and flow it. But we're not in the business of like testing other people's products and telling how bad they are, but something to consider. RS5 question, just want to know if the RS5 can even touch 774 horsepower like the S5. Please give me your opinions.
I mean, we're not far off on that. So.
I mean, basically our RS5's 720 tune makes about the same wheel horsepower.
It's not quite, but it's not far.
It's not far.
It's not far.
So the RS5 on 720s is just technically rated for less power than the A10, obviously. But I think if you're an RS5 guy, unless you're getting really worked up over like 20 horsepower or something like that, it's really not worth it. So
yeah, I mean, we went and ran a 990.
The car is very fast.
It's fast.
Yeah. I was looking at a used 2019 e-tron. Any 034 products available? Yes, our lowering links. I know several people running them on those. Of course, our ZTF wheels fit. We may have some other stuff. I don't know if we need to get one of those in here and look at it.
I think we have.
Have we?
Yeah, they've got.
Okay, so that's the only two That's the only.
Yeah, they've got some really weird sway bar stuff in the back.
Yeah,
it's like that motorized actuated bar. Something. Yeah, it's some weird stuff.
It's good to hear someone asking though. I mean,
yes,
this is the biggest issue we have with electrification as a performance tuning company is that most most people who own these cars aren't looking for performance mods. But I like the lowering link way of lowering the car versus some of these modules that are much more buggy. You install the links on the car, just it does the same thing as stock. It's just however much lower, up to 2 inches lower from 0 to 2 over. So, will you be making a product kit to make B9 carbon cleaning easier to do? We need to look into that. Does our current tool not work?
I don't know on that one. I don't think it does work. No.
It doesn't?
Now the manifolds are on the side by the frame rail.
And there's just no clearance to get to it? I don't know. I mean, how could you even get in there to do it?
In theory, you can take the manifolds off in the car if you remove the motor mounts, suspended the engine. But
Yeah, I guess the issue is just even getting to the parts. I don't know what the factory's doing. They may have some special tool or something. Nate had alluded in a chat the other day when someone was saying that you had all moved on from the C7 C7.5 platform, that 034 was still involved and had some new calibrations or whatnot in the mix. Any comment on this? How about the SuperDüper for the C7.5 platform? I don't know if we've ever said we've moved on from the platform. Maybe we said
Nate arguing that we haven't said that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, we've not moved on. And we do have new product coming out this year, and you will be seeing more.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more, how many different ways to say it, but there will be more coming.
Like the SuperDüper or the C7 is a tough one. Our current adapter housing doesn't fit, and so we would basically have to cast a whole new one.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see people asking about it here and there. It's just I don't know how many we would sell. Are we going to sell 10 a year or 20 years? So I don't know if there's a way to generate a pulse on the unit of interest, but that would be best preferred intake for an Audi A3 8V. We have several great options. We have our original X34 intake, and we have an S34 intake as well. And then we have our P34. So depending on your price points, what you're looking for visually, the X34 is available in an open and closed top version, very high quality unit. That's our most expensive option. The P34 is a cheaper plastic version of the X34 with a panel filter. And then our S34 is a very high flowing, high performance, kind of really open elements filter that has probably the best performance of all those intakes. But it's more of a tuner style intake, and that's not necessarily what some people are. So we've been making intakes for this car for 6-7 years now. So we have a lot of good options. Will a high pressure fuel pump for the B9 make a difference on 93 and 94 octane?
No. You can see in our dyno charts what we spec for each of these, but there's no. I'm assuming you're talking like stage 1 to 1 plus or 2 to 2 plus.
Yeah.
We list the power numbers on those. They are the same. It is not fuel pump limited on those, just the ethanol files.
How much of a difference will the SuperDüper throttle body make for a dual pulley B8?
Again, it depends on the dual pulley B8.
But we list, you can see on the product page, we do list the dyno charts. You can get an idea. The power starts to come on around 5,500 RPM. And then you get, the higher the engine revs, the higher the supercharger goes. So it's probably worth 5 to 10 horsepower.
Yeah, the more air you're pulling through, obviously, the more of a difference it's going to make.
Yeah.
And there's on the B8, you can send log stuff so we can tell you, kind of what you're looking at there. But there's actually a sensor, post throttle body, pre supercharger that basically directly measures how restrictive your throttle body and your intake setup is. So we can, you can get a quantitative look at the difference.
Do you have a tune for 2022 plus B9 3.0T to flash without TCU?
We will have one.
It
is not up yet.
Yeah. Just got a Mark 7R, Mark 7.5 R. Congratulations. What are the first few upgrades I should do? Definitely tuning is a big one.
Yep.
Obviously we're going to recommend parts from our catalog. Lowering, Dyno Plus lowering springs, front rear sway bars, inserts.
We're just gonna get the whole catalog.
Yeah. I
It
mean, those are
really
kind of
transforms the car.
really bang for the buck. If you do some of those things, I would say the some combination of our top camber plates, RCO ball joints, it literally transforms the car. I don't know what else. I've driven all these cars. I continue to drive them. I'm still blown away when I get into any Mark 7 of ours. The dramatic change in the car and how much more fun to drive they are.
Yeah.
Our products literally keep the cars daily driver comfortable and reliable, but they just feel like little go-karts, these Mark 7s. They're fast, point and shoot, really engaging driving experience. The cars will actually turn, and you go into a corner and you turn the steering wheel, and the steering tracks with your steering input. It's pretty phenomenal. So they're really great fun cars. They're pretty fun, they're fun stock, but our catalog just takes it to the next level. So I would say any kind of the suspension parts that I just mentioned are really nice modifications. Certainly stage 1 is, you get most of the power from there. Consider it one of our intakes. I don't even think you need to go stage 2, but if emissions isn't a concern, you can consider that as well, and have fun with it. It's great. I think good tires help too. I think the cars come with decent wheels.
It depends what your use case is going to be. If you want to track the thing, I would strongly recommend an intercooler. Be on the short list. Those do heat soak.
Yeah, intercooler. That's true.
Yeah, depending on use, there's a couple of products you might want to get on there first.
Only questions. All right, let's just tackle some Mark 8 stuff. So someone says, based on the dyno graph you posted for the 93 tune, what were you seeing for peak boost on that dyno run? Did the factory turbo hit 20 pounds, 24 pounds? All right, so we don't. That's not how the factory ECUs work. We do not, and you won't really see any other tuners quote boost level numbers. The factory ECU uses a torque model, so it's always targeting a certain amount of torque, and the ECU can model the amount of torque the engine's producing based on the calculated airflow and the amount of fuel that's being burned, and then feedback from the O2 sensors. So to hit that power, maybe on Tuesday it takes 21 pounds boost, maybe on Thursday it takes 24. The ECU doesn't care. The ECU is just going to produce the power required.
Yeah, we'll set hard caps in here for given octanes.
And boost is controlled, but we don't sell our tune says it makes this much power and it makes this much boost.
And anybody that does either doesn't understand how the ECU works or is, I don't know, just riding the top line of something for some arbitrary reason.
Well, to be fair, whoever asked this question doesn't really understand it either. So hopefully you do know.
These are, exactly, as Joel said, these are hitting a torque number. There's constraints into how much boost it can run, but that boost number is going to change literally on every pole. On every condition, it's going to be different. It's going to move around. So, you go out in 30-degree weather versus 100-degree weather, you're going to have some very different boost numbers.
Yeah. But the amount of boost a turbo produces does not equate to X number of power on any given day. So,
they have the same question for the 85 file. It's the exact same
thing. Also, what was the air-fuel ratio through the pole? Were you seeing it stay below 11:1? We also don't quote a air-fuel spec. Again, air-fuel ratio is calculated and carefully managed, and it can change from condition to condition.
There's a base level that we run, and then there's also EGT management. So it'll start manipulating the air-fuel ratio based on what EGTs it's trying to hit. And then you've got other things like there's a scavenging mode on the CMOS cars. So those will run a different AFR when you lift. There's literally hundreds of strategies to determine what it's going to run.
So these would be good questions if you were like running a Mega Squirt or something, right? And it's like, G Money tuned this Honda, and it's tuned for 23 pounds of boost, and it hits 11.5 AFR, above 15 pounds of boost. That's not how these ECUs work. They are much more advanced, way more advanced.
And there's so many different things that come into play. There's catalyst oxygen sensor load or oxygen load inside the catalyst. That's controlled, so that'll manipulate your target air fuels. And it's all these things that are just outside of what does it do when my foot's down.
Yeah. Let's see, there were some other market questions in here, I think.
Here's
I have a question. Sorry, it's not a question related directly to 034, but my Mark 8 has your stage 1 tune right now. But I noticed the factory boost gauging includes atmospheric pressure. Is there a way you can include something in your tune to show me boost without atmospheric pressure added? So you can just subtract it out in your head.
Yeah, Volkswagen, I don't know why they do this, but yes.
It's a German thing, right? And this goes back to like the Quattro days, or the Audi 5000. And Audi 5000s had a boost gauge on the dash, and when you were hit full boost, it was 1.6 bar.
Yeah, which is fine in bar. But when you look at PSI, that's generally not the
usually
convention.
PSI is atmospheric.
So yeah, no, it's just the way that they chose on their infotainment. This is the same thing on the Mark 7s that have the gauges. Is if you put it in PSI, it's gonna think it's like the air inside your tire. Essentially, they do the same conversions. They do not subtract for atmosphere to account for boost. It's pretty broken, and it's unfortunately at the display level, not from the ECU, because we could fix one, but then all of the other measurements would be off the gauge.
We've sold lots of Mark 18s, so thank you guys for your support. We did have them on sale. That ended on the 7th. It's still a great price. Still, I'd say the biggest bang for the buck tune on the market at the price it's currently at, and we have a lot more coming. Yep. So if you're thinking about jumping into GTI tuning, Mark 8 tuning with a company that's going to be supporting the platform for a long time and bringing a lot of innovation and the highest levels of performance and smoothness and drivability and reliability, then now's a great time to jump in. And remember, if you buy now, when we release our Stage 2 TCU tune, you'll receive a pretty sizable discount on it at that point for being an early adopter. Why do Mark 8 tunes still have a soft limiter? Also, is it possible with the tune to make the car start in sport exhaust mode? I still need to tap sport again for pops and crackles. I think this is referring to the in neutral soft limiter.
Yes, at stop.
We'd like to remove that.
We'll have an update. It's something that wasn't. I mean, we generally try and roll it out in first release, but it was just not on the priority list for this one. So
It'll be a free.
yeah, it'll come along. We're going to be doing updates throughout its life cycle.
What about the second part?
That is a Volkswagen Audi, another quirk where even if it's in dynamic mode when you key on, to get your exhaust modes and your engine, charisma mode, that's what they call it, into the right setting, you do have to bounce off and back purposefully into sport mode.
A good question. Did Ken Block influence your automotive aspirations? If so, how?
I don't know if he influenced my aspirations. He certainly rejuvenated some excitement for the industry and things that were just. I mean, when I watched like the initial videos that they were doing, it was just like, they're keeping a car together. I mean, obviously it's Hollywood magic for some of that, but they're keeping the engine together.
I marveled at that.
Absolutely torturous conditions. And
I don't know who was building those cars early on, but later. You had like the factory building.
There's a lot more, went into it, but just the amount of
like the Subarus that he had in the beginning.
Yeah, just the sheer torture that they were able to put those things through, with very little mechanical sympathy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, first off, huge tragedy. I was shocked when I heard. I think Ken Block was, and Hoonigan. I think 2 weeks ago I would have said, it's interesting where it's gone. Obviously, they're having a lot of fun. They're doing some cool stuff. They have a tremendous amount of influence and money that they're working with. The etron video was. It's all incredible stuff, right? I mean, but it was almost like, what do you think of like Steven Spielberg's next movie? Well, of course, it's a fucking blockbuster. And I don't know, like personally in my career, I'm not sure I was influenced other than, I think some of the early Gymkhana stuff when it was a brand new thing was like, holy shit, I can't believe this is a great idea. First off, I can't believe the car is holding together, and obviously incredible driving. I think the best way I can answer this is Ken Block influenced me tremendously in his death, and I didn't really expect that. You don't really know what you're going to think about someone until they're gone, and I think more than what he did with his car or driving. I've actually read. I actually know more about him now than I did 3 weeks ago. I've read up on him a little bit, but I guess I kind of knew this, but I'd forgotten. He was kind of an early skateboard star with Tony Hawk, back in the '80s, and then kind of retired from skating, and then started DC Shoes, which went on to be a $150 million a year company, and then he and his partners sold it. And then eventually, he was sitting on a bunch of money and wanted to have fun, so he started racing, and then realized he was an amazing driver in addition to being a world-class athlete, and then went on to do the Hoonigan stuff. And my personal friend Brian Scotto, got involved pretty early on with that, so I've had that connection as well. But seeing the outpouring of love and respect, I honestly, when I die, I would love to have like a fraction of kind of that kind of respect. That's something I think about a lot is, what's my legacy? What do I leave behind? I'm definitely inspired by apparently the way Ken Block lived his life. I didn't know him personally. I didn't work for him.
Right.
But I've read, heartfelt messages from the people that have. And, I think, what the people I work with say that kind of stuff about me. And so it's made me think a lot about what's my legacy, and inspired me to just live a better life if I could, and I can. So I think as tragic as it is, he's also left. He left on top. He left at a time where he has inspired millions and millions of people. And yeah, I think his influence has been tremendous. And you only really know that after someone dies.
Yeah, and on that point, I think all of that. I mean, it's just the genuineness that he seemed to portray, and it wasn't just he's doing this for the camera. It was
he did seem to be
in every interaction that people have had with him. It's been a genuinely
nice guy who was genuinely interested in having fun and doing really cool, amazing shit. And he was able to create a kind of a level of financial success that he could do that at a really high level. So as tragic as it is, that guy probably lived more than most people 10 times over in their lives. So definitely my heart and thoughts go out to his family, and be interesting to see what the Hoonigan team does moving forward, because I think there's a lot of talent there, but there's no question Ken was the driving force there. So I'm sure they'll be successful and continue to do great things. But definitely inspired by his death, by the apparent life he lived. That's been revealed since then. Is that intake on the desk
and it turns
for a rocket? Yes, it is. It's for a BMW B58
BMW
rocket ship. So this is our new P34 intake. This is our plastic intake. We will be coming out with a carbon fiber version of this as well, which will be our X34. This includes a new billet MAF housing and a billet reinforced. You can see I'm squeezing this really hard and it hardly moves. It has this coil of stainless steel wire running through it to ensure that it cannot collapse. And it has a very high flowing 034 Motorsport cone filter that's hidden in here. It is a closed box design, but it's very open to let all the sexy sounds out. And if you're a BMW customer, this may be your first time hearing about 034 Motorsport or dealing with it. So we are certainly not new to the automotive aftermarket, and we are a leading Volkswagen Audi tuning company. And several years ago, decided to bring our skills, expertise, and aptitude to the BMW market as well. So this is what you're seeing. We're new to the market, so we had to kind of go out and see what was available and what everyone else was selling. Our goal is never be the cheapest. We'd like not to be the most expensive, but I think this intake falls somewhere in the middle between the options on the market. This is an OEM level quality product. Actually exceeds OEM level substantially. Comes with a beautiful stainless steel heat shield. We even have, some heat reflective tape in certain parts too to protect the intake. So this has been tested extensively on track and the street. It is not currently CARB exempt or anything like that, but won't really affect your emissions much. Very easy to install, comes on and off. So check.
Sounds
It has it really improves the sound. I think that's the biggest thing customers will notice is just that increased growl and turbo sounds that are allowed to come out from these openings. The factory airbox is actually designed to suppress and cancel out all those sounds. So we undo all that stuff and let you hear what's really going on. I think that's what most enthusiasts are going to be looking for. So all the info is on our website. If you go to our website and put in your year, make, model, it will come up. Yeah, we will release it tomorrow. So, what's the price?
hold on.
Yeah, hold it.
Very cost.
Yeah, we did the plastic version for someone who's doesn't necessarily want or care. Yeah, so this will retail for $450. Really nice intake, and I'll warn you too, getting this MAF housing correct is a challenge, and it has to be done very carefully. So I think there's a good chance some other intakes on the market, certainly like an eBay intake or something cheap like that, would get that wrong. And then once you get that wrong, you're gonna be throwing
everything's
both and limiting your performance. Ironically, so all right, thank you.
114 CFM.
Yeah, flows 814 CFM. So
Ew.
that's all, as much as you'll need for 1,000 horsepower. All right. Will you?
Yeah, and we apologize. There's a lot of questions here. We're not
Yeah,
going
that's
to everything today.
we got 6 more minutes here. Let's see. Anything hot and burning? Dear Lord.
This one.
Which one?
Yeah.
Oh. Is stage 1 B9 reliable? Yes, absolutely, 100% reliable. No issues there. I think I would say our stage 3 810 TTE is reliable. Our 710 TTE is reliable. Those tunes are producing substantially more power.
We've talked about all this before, but you do have a scale of the more stress you put on things,
Yeah.
components are going to have quicker service intervals. But yeah, stage 1, I wouldn't have any concerns.
Are you guys planning on getting anything CARB certified for the 2022 TTRS? Specifically interested in X34. We don't currently have plans for that. It's a very small market, with a small number of customers.
I don't know of anyone that does currently.
I haven't heard of anyone doing CARB for DAS and anything. The good news is the intake doesn't really affect emissions, and it's easy to take on and off. It's not smog legal, but it's just an intake, and it does, from a emission standpoint, does the same things as the
It's an
factory.
intake with no measuring device inside the intake. It's just a tube. It's a more efficient tube.
Can you talk to the new B9 3.0T turbo replacement parts kit you saw on the website? Is this truly all-encompassing of the replacement parts needed to swap from stock to 710? I believe so. That's what our engineering department put together. These are all the kind of the wear or replacement items needed. So gaskets and the hardware. It's all factory OEM stuff, all in one easy package. We've actually sold a bunch of them. So I'm glad to see people are taking advantage of those. We have them for the 710, 810, and the 720 RS5 setup. Will 034 come out with a high-flow catted downpipe for the B9 SQ5? We currently do not have plans. We're simply offering the Wagner unit, which is pretty much what we would do if we came out with one. How wide a tire are you guys running on the Stage 3 S4? I'm running 255 and struggling to get off the line. We run 265s. There's room for 275s, but you're probably on a low traction surface, and you need to dial in your launch.
Yeah, which we will have more tools for you to do that in the future.
But an extra 10 mil of tire width isn't going to transform.
Width isn't everything too. It really depends on the tire and setup.
That's true. If you really want to launch, get a drag radial. Let's go get here.
And then you're still gonna have to play with tire pressures and that to get it really dialed in for your setup.
I bought a B9 SQ5 Sway bar package with mounts kit. Any Southern California LA tuners you recommend for tuning?
For tuning?
You mean installation?
Installation.
Okay.
Who do we have in LA? I just say look at our dealer locator. I mean, I don't want to recommend one shop and not out there and someone's going to. But if they're our dealer, they're good. They're going to be on our dealer locator. We have a approval application process for all 0 through 4 dealers, and we actually reject quite a few shops. So if you make the cut, you're good. Any future development plans to push more horsepower and 3.0T supercharged cars? Yes, we will be releasing something really exciting in like kind of March or April. We are not done with that platform. Driveshaft play after installing all mounts and inserts. Does it just amplify because of the stiffer mounts, experiencing some knocking noise when throttle is pressed while driving? We've talked about this before. There's a certain amount of lash in the gears and and the basically your transmission, the diff.
Yeah.
And so when you get on and off the throttle, there's
always going to be
lash.
some. Yeah.
There's always going to be some.
If there were none, you would eat your gear sets alive.
Yeah.
There's always going to be some.
Yep. So it's nothing to worry about.
Potentially this comes along with NVH. As you tighten things up, you may get some more of that, that transitional sound in the cabin.
Well, I've been able to purchase the flow-formed rims for my husband for Valentine's Day. First off, wow, you're an amazing wife. Your husband's very lucky.
Or husband.
Well, I don't know. Well, the husband's lucky either way.
It's a lucky husband.
Yes. God, things get complicated.
It's tough to.
I'm not even sure what gender anyone is anymore. I don't think so. Not as far as buying them. Maybe we could send you a nice picture to print out to give him. They are coming, but due to the many delays and supply chain issues and COVID, they're delayed at least 6 months now. So.
Contrary to popular belief, those are still a thing.
Delays. Manufacturing
delays are still as bad as ever. They're actually worse in some cases. So now we have. I mean, these wheels are made in China, just like every other wheel. And we have entire factories now shutting down because of COVID. That didn't used to happen when China had a zero COVID policy, but now it's happening. So it's kind of gone from one extreme to the other. Before they were shutting factories down so nobody would get COVID.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you guys will be hearing lots of delays from lots of companies if you haven't already, and it's ongoing. Some stuff's definitely improved. Should we try to get another one or two?
There's one here. Do you have data logging for the Mark 8 GTI? We do. If you need it, we can certainly set you up.
Yeah, you just need to contact our tuning at 034motorsport.com.
Yep.
And just know it's for troubleshooting, customer service. This isn't for you to data log and for your own entertainment.
We have login for those.
Is an intercooler absolutely necessary or required for B9 Stage 1 ECU and Stage 2 TCU? No, we recommend it. So the car will run just fine without it. You will hit into thermal limits, which means the ECU is going to start pulling performance back sooner as the heat builds in your intake system. So that's why we recommend it. You're just going to get more, clean power by cooling down your intake charge. But the car will run just fine, and you can still accelerate, and it's still safe. You're just going to lose some of that performance.
Yep.
Is it safe for the transmission B8 S4 to launch the car at higher RPM?
Well, really depends on your conditions, your tires, how much traction you've got. If you're just trying to launch at like $5,000 to blow the tires off, it's going to be pretty hard on components. But we've tested the crap out of these things. I haven't had any issues with mine yet.
No, it's launching is always tricky. When you launch from a high RPM, you're unleashing a lot of kinetic force on the drivetrain. So it's like the difference between slowly moving your fist into someoe's face or punching them. I'm glad I didn't actually.
Yeah, I was not looking at all until I felt the presence of a fist.
But it's the saving grace is that shock to the system usually breaks the tires loose.
Right.
And so the amount of force that actually, for every force, there's an equal and opposite force. The opposite force ends up being quite low because it's released in the form of tires.
Right. You'll have a really sharp spike just before the tires break loose, and then that's where I said it really depends on traction. If you've got some super sticky surface, all that kinetic energy is going to come up, and it's going to hold for a moment and unload, into the drivetrain versus just spinning the tires.
So if you bolted your wheels to the ground and you did a 7,000 RPM launch, gears would just go flying out from under the car.
That's the full extreme.
Yeah.
The high school physics.
So actually, probably the hard, from a theoretical standpoint, the hardest launch on your car is the one that hooks up and generates the most grip.
Yep.
And we've got most launches are near or closer to that because that's what people are trying to do to go fast, and there's no widespread braking of these cars. So I think you're okay.
All right, I think we are.
All right, I think we're good for this week. We will be back on next week, Tuesday,
Yep.
At 11 a.m. same time. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Yep.
Cheers.